Alright, well, I got a quick second here. I wanted to take a look at this game my friend Ron3 played. Nice looking win. Ron is actually black in this game. I switched to, this is how the board came up, but I'll take a look at it from the black side in a minute. But on with the show here, white opens up pawn to king 4, and we get pawn to king 4, knight to king bishop 3, knight to queen bishop 3, nothing unusual there. White hits the center right away with pawn to queen 4. I think that's a center game. Nothing too bad there. A more normal move is developing the knight like that, but it's okay. D4 is fine. Pawn captures pawn, knight captures pawn, that's normal. And down at the bottom of the screen here, you can see the Stockfish engine is recommending the next 3 most popular moves, the next 3 best moves. So bishop to c5, I think that's what Ron plays. White responds with a knight. Let's see. Yeah, knight captures c6. That looks pretty normal. B captures c6. Normal. White's next move I don't like here. White plays a3. That's a little too passive. He should really develop. Alright, if you look at the bottom, all the moves that the computer is recommending are all developmental moves, and white plays this kind of defensive move or prophylactic move or whatever you want to call it, but it just looks a little too passive. And Ron takes advantage of that, plays a little developmental move there, opens up his bishop with d6. Again, white plays another one of these passive moves. These last 2 pawn moves, they're okay moves if you've got your development done and you just want to make some final preparations or defensive moves. But this is just a little weak. He should. If you look at the bottom of the board again, the computer's recommending the 3 developmental moves, and instead white just plays this little prophylactic move there. So Ron takes advantage of that, knight to f6, although actually at the bottom of the board that move isn't recommended. I think it's a fine move, but I'm not a computer. So knight to f6, that looks okay. And here again, you can see the computer's recommending that white continue with development, but white pushes his central pawn here. He plays e5. This is just a little bit too soon. He's not ready to support an attack in the center. Most of his pieces are still right where they started. The computer actually recommends this move, but Ron plays knight to d5, which doesn't seem too bad. Where are we at? Knight to d5, e5, knight to d5. There we go. That's Ron's move. That doesn't look too bad. He's still pretty well developed and hasn't really lost any time in development because white has moved the same piece twice, meaning that king's pawn. So on we go. White recaptures there. Again, let's see what the computer recommends. Doesn't recommend the recapture. It recommends more developmental moves. But white, goes on with his premature attack there. What I did think was interesting here is if you look at the bottom of the board there, the computer doesn't recommend recapturing that pawn. It recommends just continuing with development by either castling or getting the queen out to attack this weak f7 square or f2 square. So, but that's okay. Ron recaptures. That doesn't look too awful bad. Here comes white. He finally brings out another piece, bishop to c4. And then Ron's going to take advantage of this weak square down here, the king bishop 2 square, and play queen to f6. I think the computer bishop to f2 check. That's an interesting recommendation there. Bishop to f2 won't let me. This is what the computer recommends, and then king captures f2, and then what? Queen to h4 check. Right? And then the king has to move, and then white swings over and picks up this bishop. So that's the line the computer recommended. So e5, knight to d5, back up a little bit, e captures d6, c captures d6, bishop to c4. Ron plays queen to f6. Good looking move. What's next? White castles to get himself out of trouble. Now the computer recommends that black go ahead and castle. Ron kind of moves this knight out of the way. I'm not a big fan of that move, but it doesn't look like a game loser or anything. I would recommend castling right there. And white comes with bishop to b3. The computer's not liking that. Queen to e1 check or queen to e2 check would be recommended. So white backs up a little bit, and then black plays bishop to a6. Again, I think I'd castle right here to get it out of the way and continue with development, but this move looks okay. Bishop to a6, rook to e1 check. Oh yes, so now black has to play king to d7. There's really no option but to move his king. And it's white's turn. Queen to d2 is what he's going to play. It's not really recommended, but he's trying to, he's trying to protect this this king bishop 2 square over here. Bishop to e3 would be probably a better move. This would probably be the best move. But white plays queen to d2. It's kind of awkward looking. Rook a to e8 looks good. White plays knight to c3. No, that's not recommended. But he's trying to get his pieces. See, now he's behind in development. He's trying to get active. A little too late. Check. That looks pretty good. Check. Yep. Oh yeah. And black's just bringing in pieces for the attack here. White has to run away. He's blocking in his own bishop here. Queen captures f2 check. Looks really good. Is that what the computer recommended? The computer recommends this move, which is really excellent because you can see that rook can't be taken. It's guarded by the bishop back here on whatever that is, a6. So that's a really good looking move. I didn't see that either until I saw it on the computer. So let's back up. Queen to d2, and then black plays queen to d2 check. Queen captures, I'm sorry, queen to f2. Queen captures f2, and then rook to e1 check. It's a nice looking combination there. Let's see what the computer recommends. Yep, that's a move check. So the king has to move away, and black wins the queen back. White plays bishop captures f7. Black tries to reposition a little bit. That looks good. Bishop to h5. Bishop captures c1. I think down at the bottom, the computer actually recommends rook captures c1. But bishop captures c1 there. And then, let's see. Yeah, I mean, you can tell by the analysis down here, -5, -5. This game is just all black. I mean, it's just overwhelmingly, I wouldn't say a one position, but it should be, you know. So white's trying to get something together, but it's just not going to work. King to c7, rook to a2. Look how awkwardly placed this rook is. There's really not a whole lot of choices, but white's trying to save his rook there. And here comes black doing a good job here, getting this other knight involved in the game. That really just kind of helps black. He wants to move his knight anyway. There we go. So white tries to save this bishop. All right. So now it's black's turn, and check. It's a really good looking mate. I like this mating combination. And black puts his bishop in place. These two bishops can really be powerful if they're bearing down on a king position. And knight, what is that? Knight to h2 check. And white's just about out of options here. And then rook to f1 check. This is a really cool looking mate. I mean, to look at it, you think, boy, is that a checkmate? But it is, you know, because this other bishop over here on a6 is holding on to the rook and keeping the king from going to that square. It's just a really good looking mate and a nice looking game by Ron. We'll back it up and play it from Ron's point of view just to see it real quick. Same game. All looks normal. Looks pretty normal. That was a poor move by white. You know, he should have got some more pieces out. It comes back to haunt him later. Another one, another weak move. This attack is happening too soon. White's pushing this pawn with no support, with none of his pieces ready to go into battle. Again, down here at the bottom, you know, the computer recommended that the black just go ahead and castle here and not even worry about that pawn. Still a pretty good looking game, taking advantage of white not developing very quickly. Yeah, see now if Black would have castled earlier, he wouldn't have gotten stuck in this position here, where he has to move his king. But he ended up winning, so it's hard to be critical if he ended up winning, right? I really like this sequence here. This whole combination is just all black from here on out. Check, nowhere to go. And bishop captures. That pawn's just meaningless. I mean, you know, white took this pawn right here, but it doesn't do a bit of good. I don't know what the computer recommended. Rook to b1. That's good. Bishop captures f7. Okay. Again, the computer has recommended that the rook capture. Alright. It's all pretty good from here. Look at this white rook. How awkwardly placed is that rook? It's just not even in the game. You know, of course, and black's rook is just dominating the board. Here comes another piece into the attack. This is just beautiful from here on out. I just love this move here. This check. It's so cool. And then mate. That's such a good looking mate. So really nice looking game there. A lot of analysis to look at. A lot of analysis down there at the bottom to look at during the game. So excellent game by my good man Ron3. And thank you all very much.